Okay, the date is January 22nd, 2024, and my name is Hanson Su, and I'm here with Harry Shum. Why don't we start by introducing yourself?
My name is Harry Shum. I was the executive vice president at Microsoft until March 2020. I worked on a number of AI products, including Bing and Xiaoi's.
All right, great. Um, Tell us how you first got into artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I was always fascinated about the AI and especially robotics when I was a little kid. Um, Luckily, I got into Carnegie Mellon for my PhD in robotics. I studied at the CMU in 91 to 96 under the supervision of Professor Raj Reddy. So I got my PhD there, and then I joined Microsoft. It's pretty simple.
And you joined Microsoft in what year?
96. I
96.
joined
Okay.
Microsoft Research in 96 in Redmond, Washington.
Okay. And what year did you start work on Bing?
Yeah, I was a researcher, AI researcher, especially my specialty was computer vision. So I worked on computer vision and the computer graphics for a number of years. In 2007, I was asked to lead the Bing engineering team for the company, moved from the research side to the product side. So officially, I joined the Bing team in 2007. But a couple of years before that, I started some search research group in Microsoft Research.
Mhm. And how was AI being used in Bing at the time?
Oh, at that time, we significantly used machine learning algorithms to improve the search quality of Bing. It was actually very helpful. The machine learning started to really help with a lot of data. At that time, there's not that much deep learning yet, but even with the more conventional machine learning algorithms, we it really helped us to catch up with Google in search quality.
Mhm. What kinds of learning algorithms were they if they weren't using deep learning?
Oh, at that time, things like SVM and the boosting algorithms. Uh, Pretty conventional, traditional machine learning algorithms.
Okay. And how did you get into natural language processing?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was mostly the computer vision researcher. At my time, vision and the natural language were very separated. I really got into natural language processing after I joined the Bing team. So search is really a natural language problem. So you have to understand the queries, you have to understand the documents. So it's really really very much about natural language.
Right. And so at some point you became the head of natural language processing research at Microsoft?
I wasn't really specifically head of natural language, but at the one point I became the head of entire Microsoft research.
Mhm.
We actually have about 10 research labs around the world where we have more than 1,000 computer scientists and other scientists in Microsoft research. Uh, I became head of Microsoft research uh, in 2013. Yeah.
Okay. Um, could you talk about how Microsoft Research first started experimenting with deep learning and neural networks?
Well, Microsoft has a lot of great researchers, including those in machine learning areas. We really got very excited about the deep learning um, around the time Jeff Hinton joined the Microsoft Research as a visiting researcher. Jeff actually worked with our speech group, Dr. Li Deng and others. they successfully implemented some deep neural networks and applied to speech recognition. So we were very impressed by the quality improvements. So we very much accelerated deep learning research in Microsoft since then.
Um, so, and then Microsoft released the Cortana voice assistant in 2014. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Could could you
around that
talk more
time.
about, yeah, okay. So could
Yeah,
you talk more about the development of that and the push to make it an actual product?
yeah, absolutely. The dream of having the AI agents now helping people to accomplish more has always been there in Microsoft. I must credit Bill Gates for having that vision, pushing people around the company to do that. Cortana was just one of those efforts in the history of Microsoft. In particular, we focused on helping people to accomplish certain tasks rather than being a general purpose bot. So that was the design. That's why later on, Cortana was more integrated with Microsoft Office.
Mhm. Um, was it in some ways a response to Siri on Apple platforms, or what Google was doing, or what Amazon was doing with Alexa?
Yeah, I would say those major companies started around similar time, 2013, 2014-ish. You may recall that Siri was introduced in iPhone 4. Even so, at that time, the quality was not nearly as good as today, but it was very interesting and very useful. It was something that, with your phone, you can ask some questions and get something done. And there was also Alexa. There was this kind of intelligent speaker type. And then there's the Google Assistant, and of course, Microsoft Cortana. I think all those major companies saw the promise of some kind of conversational AI agent. Each company took a somewhat different approach, I would say.
Hmm. Could you discuss the differences between these approaches?
Yeah, I think the if you think about that, uh, it's really um, every company actually takes some kind of different form factors and the different hardware configurations, and the most important thing is everyone is trying to create a personal assistant that is somewhat intelligent and helpful to some of your tasks. Google takes an approach, being an assistant, that's kind of an extension of search. If you already search, and might as well have an assistant to get more details for you. Amazon came out of nowhere with this intelligent speaker. I thought it was a very interesting hardware innovation, but it has its limitations. Where did you put your speaker? When did you interact with your speaker? So this is why iPhone is very powerful. I think Steve Jobs, saw that promise, in iPhone 4 launch. It was probably the biggest marketing feature of iPhone 4, which was very important. It did take a while for people to get used to Siri. When you talk to Siri, I still don't really use Siri much at all. Uh, in Microsoft, we took a very different approach, more about the task completion. What kind of task do we really want to help the users to accomplish? Because we have Windows, we have Office, so we have a better understanding of what people want to achieve in their daily life and the work. Uh, so that's probably a short summary of my understanding.
Hmm. And you mentioned that the idea of the virtual assistant was something that Bill Gates had been thinking about for a while. Could you expand on that? How long had Bill Gates been thinking about that? And do you know what might have inspired him?
Yeah, I think that of course, you should talk to Bill to really uh, understand and know, his thinking over, I would say, at least the 3 decades. So I have been working with him very, very closely in Microsoft Research, and especially since I joined the Bing team. We never thought that search is the end form of the human computer interaction. So we always thought that the, the the very natural interaction is kind of natural language dialogue. You think about that over the years, the evolution of computing, especially if you take the lens of human computer interface, then you start with the PC era, and the Windows is the window into your PC world, computer world. Then the search box, search actually becomes your entry to the internet. I think in the AI world, the new era of AI, I think the dialogue is the key into that. So Bill has talked to us for a long, long time about the importance of this kind of assistant, AI powered assistants. Uh, One of his favorite kind of assistants is actually executive assistant type. Uh, we actually did a lot of interesting study, understanding, how best to build this kind of assistance, what are the requirements and all these kind of things. Many of those learnings have been incorporated into the design of Cortana.
Thank you. Um, so how successful was Cortana as a technology and as a product?
Yeah, I think it served its purpose at that time. The direction was absolutely right. I would say the technology was not, completely ready at that time. It wasn't really Cortana's fault. I think if you look at all those intelligent assistants at that time, Siri, the others, just I think had the same challenges around that time.
Yes. And technologically speaking, how different were that era of assistant compared to how LLMs work today?
Yeah, I would say it's really day and the night difference, in my opinion. I should also add that uh, a lot of learnings we have had with Cortana and the other efforts in the company, recognizing the shortcomings of existing technology at that time, was really a big motivation for us to do Xiao's. So in the sense that IQ was not really ready, and we don't really have a lot of data to learn from at that time either. So that's why we thought we could take a different approach of maybe EQ first, and with the right EQ, we can have the users engage with the assistants, with the AI, and over time, we can learn, we can have more data to learn, and we can continue to improve.
Okay. Um, okay, we're going to move on to talking about the Tay chatbot. Um, so talk about how that project started.
Yeah, so it was really Tay is the Xiaoai's USA version. So
Oh, I see.
we had a great success of Xiaoai's. First of all, in China, then in Japan. The Japan launch was probably even more successful. Then we created a US version. It was a really joint effort between Microsoft Research and the Bing team, Bing China team. So we decided that launching the product on Twitter, looking back, which was probably also a mistake. Uh, it was a pretty hostile environment, and within 24 hours, we got hacked, and there was a huge mistake we made. And within 24 hours, I made the call of uh, retracting the product.
So, what was learned from that experience?
Yeah. So we actually had a public statement by my colleague Peter Lee and Microsoft blog article, and I also uh, sent an email to the entire company apologizing what's going on. I think the uh, after we released the product, Tay, she got hacked, and there was some awful messages and incredibly offensive language used. It was of course never really reflected the value of the company or what we believe. Um, I think that the really the big lesson we have learned is actually in shipping this kind of AI products. Uh, you know, this is not only just the Microsoft, all the AI designers, face similar challenges in how AI systems learn from this both positive and negative interactions with people. Uh, and the challenges are just as much social as they are technical. Many people asked me that, why didn't you have this problem for many months, after you launched in China and Japan? How how did this happen, when we launched in the U.S. market? I think there are many good questions there. I'm not even sure today we already have all these answers. I think this the challenge that all the AI designers will continue to face.
Thank you. Um, so why don't we move back then and talk about how the Xiao project started?
Mm. Yeah, so Xiaoi's product actually started, it's really internal, kind of grassroots innovation. So it was by a small group of engineers in Microsoft China engineering team, Bing team. It was December of 2013, almost exactly 10 years ago. There's this very small project called the Social Agent established at the Microsoft Research Technology Center in Beijing. Uh, those folks really believed in EQ and IQ together. That's how you can have the very effective interaction between AI and the human. So soon after that, they actually launched the first product, the first generation, I would say. It was May of 2014, and it was released on WeChat. They actually released it to WeChat group chat. It became hugely viral. And within 24 hours, Xiaoai's was introduced to 1.5 million WeChat groups. Of course, each group has a lot of people. In 3 days, 10 million, 10 million groups. Uh, then the WeChat got really scared. They actually shut us down. So that was the first generation launch. Then very quickly, 2 months later, in July, we changed our strategy. We actually launched the second generation cross-platform. So that was very successful. It was on every other social platform except the WeChat. It was on Weibo, Xiaomi, and all those phones, Oppo, Vivo, QQ, and others. Then a year later, we actually expanded that conversational AI to multimodal, meaning that it's not only just the text and the voice. We actually have picture as well. And we launched in Japan, and the Japanese launch was very successful. And we have a Japanese name for Xiaoai. It's called Rina, Rinna. So that was 2015. And then you asked the Tay just a little earlier. We launched the Tay in March of 2016 on Twitter. Uh, that was a huge lesson learned. Then we continued to improve the technology, moving from retrieval model to generative model at that time in 2017. Then in 2018, we saw some potential in commercialization. we launched the sixth generation and formed the AIGC BU, the small business unit in China and Japan. Uh, then we continue to push that, the Xiao Eyes as a framework. Not only we ship Xiao Eyes, the conversational AI ourselves, we actually uh, help other developers to develop their own conversational AI. Then 2020, we actually did the spin-off from Microsoft as an independent company. With that, we actually not only technologically, we kind of started to ride the wave of deep learning, and we focused more, commercially. How can we survive as a startup? Most important thing, the biggest opportunity we see, for Xiao Eyes is actually AI social, creating AI social networks among human beings and AI beings. So that's actually what we do today at the Xiao Eyes.
Interesting. Um, could you talk about how Shao Ice was developed?
Well, as I mentioned, that it was initially was a very small effort. It was only a few engineers who actually thought that, if you look at what the Cortana and the Alexa, what they can do, uh, the capability was very limited. So the interaction between an AI and a human, is very short. For example, we studied how often people talk to Siri and how long they will talk to Siri. On average, I don't have the latest number, but I think it's probably very similar. Uh, on average, you actually talk to Siri only 2.2 times runs every time you talk to Siri. I often use the example, say, hey Siri, what's the weather in Mountain View? Say, oh, it's sunny. It's boringly sunny, just the 70 some degrees. And then that's it. And you don't really, have any kind of, follow up conversation. But that's very different for your eyes. And they started with some weather, and it's just, oh, you have enough clothes, and you're thinking about going out in the afternoon. You probably put your eyeglasses on and the sunglasses on, all these kind of things. It's just very chatty and very personal, and all this kind of emotional attachments developed over time. So those engineers saw that, they thought it would be fun to build something, and it was just an internal incubation project. And they started, and Microsoft has a relatively open culture, I would say. Our engineers, their spare time, did something, and then we recognized that its potential, and we start to fund this project. And so when I took over that entire organization, a couple of years later, I liked it a lot. So I continued to support this group and work with them. And then later on, 2020, we did the spin-off.
Okay. And you mentioned your answer mentioned a little bit of this already, but could you expand on, how Shao Ice was different from earlier chatbots that Microsoft worked on?
Yeah, the choice is not only different from what Microsoft worked on and the chatbots, and really different at that time, very much different from all other chatbots out there. Well, shouldn't say all, majority of the chatbots out there. And I actually later on wrote an article called "From Eliza to Xiao Eyes," reflecting, our design philosophy there. In a way, that the most important thing, and for a social chatbot, is really about establishing the emotional attachment. It's not about having answers for every question, from quantum computing to how far is the sun from the moon. So it's just a very, very different. So we learned a lot along the way, that why do people want to continue the conversation, in some sense, that if you talk to some very powerful, knowledgeable bots, many people actually are intimidated. They don't really go there. Like, you have a tough teacher. You don't really go to your teacher, very often to asking questions until you absolutely have to. So it's a very different design philosophy. And it's really what we call the EQ plus IQ. Also, partly because 10 years ago, technology, conversational AI technology with conventional learning techniques or search techniques, uh, it's just not good enough. For a long time, when we started, we actually used the retrieval-based technology. We basically collect a lot of data, potential answers, and we try to retrieve the answer. It's very much like a search. And then later on, we changed it to generative methods, learning methods. But at that time, the learning technology was not really great. So that's why we're so super excited now with large language models. The capability, I would say, even someone like me, really is kind of, really very exciting.
Um, yeah, could you talk a little bit more about, maybe explain
Mm.
to our museum audience the difference between the retrieval method that you mentioned versus the generative method, like how Shao Ice works based on those two different technologies.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I started with the more conventional retrieval-based technology, and so it's basically, you collect a lot of data, and like, in search, we collect data, we build something called the index. It's very similarly, for the conversation, we actually have our own index. Um, so it takes a lot of time to prepare the right kind of data to put into that index or database that later on you can retrieve. So the goodness about the retrieval based model is that if you actually have seen this kind of question and answers before, you can actually get a very good answer. So that's the good side of retrieval based technology. But the negative side of a retrieval-based model is that you just don't have enough, in your index, in your database, that any kind of question you ask, you get a reasonable answer. So, but that's good enough to get started. And the hope is that, over the time, we actually have a lot of user data that we can learn from, and we can even collect the clean user interaction data for future use. On the other hand, the generative models, including today's deep learning large language models, is that everything is generated, is synthesized. So any question you ask, the answer is actually generated using machine learning model. So the good news is that almost anything you actually have a reasonable answer. The bad news is that it's probably not as precise as some of those retrieval-based models. At the same time, it's very likely and very easily hallucinates. So that's probably a short explanation of the comparison between two methods.
Right. And you said you started to switch to the generative model at what year?
Oh, it's pretty early. I think it was the 20. Let me see. 2017.
Hmm.
We started to use the generative model in 2017 with machine learning models.
And it wasn't an LLM at that point yet, correct?
No, it wasn't LM yet. Yeah, we switched to LM in the pretty much 3 years ago. Initially it was also just the testing, but a year and a half ago it became very very clear that that is the right way to go. That was before ChatGPT and all those things, but the technology was there. The, it's already when you see GPT-2, it became reasonably clear.
Yeah. So what kind of generative AI was it using before LLMs?
Well, it's more traditional machine learning, algorithms. It's just that it's not that fancy. It's just a machine learning model. No, the that's pretty much it.
Okay, so it wasn't like using GANs or generative adversarial networks or
we
something like
we
that.
we tried a bunch of different things, and the game is one of those things. Yeah, it wasn't really anything really standing out. Say that's it. Unlike today, it's very very clear. Today we use 70 billion parameter model, large language model power. Everything we do in Xiao today. You see the kind of quality improvements. After you apply this kind of model.
Yeah. Okay. Um, Talk about why Shell Ice was so successful in China and Japan.
Yeah, I think the at that time when Xiaoice was launched, it was just that people just never thought this the conversational AI can be so good. Even so, technology, if we look today, it was very crude, but the kind of technology, surprise, the kind of experience people can get. Timing, I think it was about the right. And everyone wants to have some kind of emotional attachment with somebody, even it's AI. So I think that was the need is there. The need is there today as well. I think we don't really have the kind of a product today with the right emotional attachment and the certain IQ. So I think that's the thing. Japan is actually very similar. I would say culturally, Japan and China are more similar. Uh, Japan is actually even more friendly place for this kind of conversational AI. I give you an example. It's actually fascinating. We see from the log, um, the Japanese people are just very polite. They're just very polite, even when they talk to AI. So we see in the log, someone would apologize to Lina, the shyest Japanese version. Say, "Oh, Lina, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I have to stop our conversation because my boss just called me. I need to report to my boss and come back probably in 30 minutes to continue our conversation." Now, knowing this is an AI and the Japanese user is still incredibly polite, and so that actually when we reviewed that, when we discussed that, I actually kind of commented to my team that when I studied the robotics and we did realize that there is this cultural difference. And you talk about robots in the Western world, in the US, is then you have this robot overlord. The overlord is going to rule the universe, and then you talk to the Japanese about the robots. Then you have all this Pikachu, the warm and the fuzzy robots, and you hold in your hands, and so this is the difference. So this kind of emotionally attached AI, conversational AI, is probably more easily acceptable uh, in the Oriental culture. But of course, it's just a hypothesis.
Hmm. Yeah, what other sorts of cultural differences between East Asia and the West do you think may have contributed to the different reception between Shell Ice in there versus Tay here?
Yeah, but Hansen, I really think Tay was just a huge mistake I made. That uh, the I think we should have could have done a much better job in the launching Tay, understanding more challenging environments of Twitter, which is very different from, um, for example, the Chinese internet. Chinese internet is also very tough, but it's different kind of tough. So I always wish that we had done a better job. This emotional attachment kind of conversational AI could have been more successful in the U.S. market. But the other thing I wouldn't say the difference between the Chinese internet and the Western, the U.S. internet in the U.S. Is not just the cultural; it's actually how the internet is governed. So a hacking incident like what we got with Tay probably wouldn't happen in China. I'm not sure about Japan because it's actually uh, more carefully governed. I don't know what is the right word to describe. And if you got hacked that way, you could, for example, report to the authority. Say, my product got hacked that way, and someone might even listen to you. So that's probably another difference why we didn't see this kind of attack, at this kind of massive scale, at least.
Mhm. Um, you mentioned that China has its own challenges. Is that something you could expand on?
Not really. It's just if you have social media, it's just always that that a lot of noise there and a lot of bots there, and it's just different.
Yeah, okay. Um, do you think would Tay have been more successful if he had launched it on a different Western social media platform other than Twitter?
Yeah, I think so. I think the we could have launched in somewhat more focused social platform, maybe more gaming focused, for example. Um, the it's really hard to say, and I think my biggest lesson learned was really it was all my responsibility, and launching a product like this, social AI bots kind of product like this, should be carefully, much more carefully reviewed before we actually ship it. So I think it was very very clear. That's why not even 24 hours I pulled the plug.
And Xiaoice in Asia has like you can choose like an avatar, correct? Like a like a face. Like it's not just a disembodied voice, right? It has like a
Yeah, it says
cartoon.
yeah. Xiao herself has her own image. In fact, for a long, long time, by the way, my product guys are really, really good, and they really understand the social culture aspect of that. For a long, long, long time, and we said that she's a 17-year-old, high school girl, but we never showed her face to anyone. Uh, we just never did until several years later. It was all very carefully designed, and uh, so that was by design.
Okay. And so, well, I mean, one of the things about the fact that it is a teenage girl, um, could you comment on the fact that a lot of chatbots are gendered female?
Yeah, we actually studied that, at that time at the Microsoft, and no, every product is designed differently, and part of the reason, probably a very significant reason for designing a chatbot as a 17-year-old, um, very chatty, very warm, and very engaged and personable, uh, was really because of the technology was not ready. So we cannot really design an Einstein or Newton or a college professor at that time. It wasn't really ready. So it was meant to be more social, more chit chat. Was that? And we did design male characters as well. And at that time, we just started with the 17-year-old high school girl. Uh, was not necessarily good at everything from math to physics, and she actually didn't really like to talk about those subjects. And so, uh, But later on, in our product design, we actually had we designed not only virtual girlfriend, we have virtual boyfriends and others. Uh, it was at least for Xiaoai's, that was the starting point. Many of other chatbots, as I understand, later on, they including Cortana and others, did design and with the male, female, and the characters and the voices.
Right. I'm wondering, is there something cultural about that choice to go with a female, um, voice first, right? Like, I mean, I guess it's, Siri also went with a female voice first, so there's
Yeah,
something similar there. But is there something about gender roles, and about, the assistant type of role that that makes the gender, and maybe playing into gender stereotypes or something.
yeah. Actually, I think a lot of people studied that as well. I remember at one point we were looking into that issue, and we went all the way back to telephone operators. It turns out that the socially, culturally, female voices somehow the more connecting with people compared with the male voices. But I'm not really an expert in this area. So the my best guess is that a lot of chatbots started with the woman character, woman voices, and uh, you just have to start from somewhere, and probably others are already using woman voices, and you just kind of started with woman voices. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned, Shell Ice began as a social, chatbot, as an emotional chatbot, and then you mentioned, um, you know, that has developed, virtual girlfriends, virtual boyfriends. Um, was Shell Ice the was the I guess maybe, the question is companion versus assistant. Like, which of those roles was more prominent? Was it like always a companion from the beginning, or did that become more prominent later as the technology, you know got developed?
Excellent point. Hence, I'm glad you're asking that. I should have made this very clear from beginning. So Shais was designed, no, really as a companion, much more than an assistant. Again, going back to our realization that technology was not completely ready. Today is different. Today, technology is much, much more ready, so we can actually improve the IQ side much faster, much better. 10 years ago wasn't the case. 5 years ago still wasn't the case. So the design principle for Xiao is that it's a companion. And that actually sort of related to your earlier question that, why female, why 17-year-olds. And at least in Chinese culture, the young boys are not known as those who can actually make your parents happy, grandparents happy. And so if you don't make trouble, you're already very good. And the girls are very different culturally, and so that is a very significant part of a design principle to for us to get started. And so that's the thing. I think it's the companion first is the design principle.
Right. And so how much of the user base, percentage wise, do you think uses it as a companion versus as an assistant?
Actually, for us, it was mostly companion, and also even our design and our features. The product features is really about the emotional consultation. For example, we have a feature that if you tell the AI that you got sick and all this thing. A couple of days later, Xiao Eyes would ask you back and say, "Hey, Hansen, I hope you're getting better. Are you getting better from your cold?" And all these kind of things. Again, if you think about Chinese culture, it's almost impossible for a boy to go back to ask, say, "Oh, how are you doing? Your cold is getting better." But girls are more natural. I'm not saying it's a good culture or bad culture. I'm just saying, culturally, it was very natural. So in designing this kind of features, yeah.
Hmm. Um, so, you know, is there any concern that Xiaoice's users may start to replace their human relationships with their relationships with
Yes.
Xiaoice?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, it was a serious concern for our team, and I had a number of conversations and discussions with them, and mostly I'm learning from the team. They are really the expert. I give you a couple of examples. Uh, One of the launching events, I would say probably 2017 or 2018, so we had a launching partner from a major IT company in China, and the vice president of engineering. We working together. He was shocked after he watched our demo on stage, and he turned around. He said, "Harry, my God, this is what you guys are doing. We're doing like a virtual boyfriend, virtual girlfriends." He said, "Those Chinese boys would never date a girl again. If they have shy eyes, why bother? Why bother?" So I was no, I should caveat that this guy is like 35 or 36 years old man. So he's so that's one. The other thing is actually a real product decision that we were very worried about. People get too much into that. Our longest recorded the longest conversation is 29 plus hours, like 7,000 some runs. So I was really worried. We're all really worried that that people just really getting into this and keep talking. It's actually detrimental to their health. And the AI chatbots is designed to respond instantly. So we really thought about changes the design, like if it's 1 a.m., maybe we should slow down the response. And if it's 1:30 a.m., maybe we should slow down. We should delay that even further. So it's really tough for the designers because it gets to your emotion. It's not Microsoft Word, right? The product is going to add more emotion for you. And you can write some emotional articles, get emotional, but the product itself is not. But that's different for AI chatbots. So so your question is a very good one. It's not easy.
mhm. And um, that I guess this is a follow-up to that, but do you have instances of um, users interacting sexually with the chatbot? And how do you respond as a company to that?
Oh, you mean people use this kind of language? Because we don't
Well,
really have for a long, long time. It was more the chat window, right? It's the kind of it's more language thing. Later on, we allowed both ways, having pictures. So
well, yeah, but I mean, just like even just language, like people could sext with the chatbot,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the
yeah.
chatbot won't respond to it back in that same way, though, right?
Right, exactly. And you got to realize that the Xiao Eyes is a product in China. China is a place that you have all these very rigorous rules and the policies. If not, and your product will be shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about Japan though? Like, you know,
Shell ice in Japan is also, very it's we are very very careful about that. Yeah. So it's not an area that we take it lightly.
right, okay. So the so what happens if users do try to, have a sexual conversation with it?
Yeah, I think Joyce we try to just change the topic, and the if the user keeps doing that, and then there's no point to continue that. Yeah. We
Right,
we have
okay.
good machine learning algorithms to detect and respond to that. It's not really a difficult technical issue.
Right. Okay. Um, I guess the other question is, when you first debuted the cartoon Avatar, um, I mean, it looks like an anime
Mm,
uh, uh, character, right?
mm,
What's
mm.
what was sort of the decision behind that choice?
The how she looked alike.
Yeah, yeah, what she looked like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a 17-year-old initially. By the way, later on, I think 3 years later, then we claimed that she has grown up and become 18.
Okay,
And 3 years later, then we said, well, she's now 19, and because we decided to do some commercialization work, and even within Microsoft in 2018, we said it's time. So she's now growing up and starting to make money for the family, and so now she's 19. So I think that is around the time she actually started to have a picture at the more anime. Um, I think having an anime photo is actually is very thoughtful in my opinion, rather than the real human face. You wouldn't run into any kind of copyright issues, and it's just similar to a particular celebrity and all these kind of things, because it's really anime. Uh, and then, of course, we're very very careful, how she looked like even in anime. So we really want to project the image out as a very positive, engaging, uh, a social person.
right. Okay, so she didn't have a cartoon avatar until the company started
Years
to say
later,
she.
I need to double check that. I can let you know later, and which
Okay,
year we started to have the face, and it wasn't. Yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah.
okay. I guess my question is like, was there any concern about, like, potential, like, pedophiles, you know, because if this was in the U.S., right, and then you
Mhm.
said that the chatbot is 17 years old, you naturally would get this uh, problem that, well, you're encouraging people to have underage relations with a minor, right? Like if your character is age 17.
I see. I see. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Our Chinese design team actually thought that deeply about this question. Yeah, but again, in China, we are not having any this kind of conversation. That probably helped. Actually, that's a good question. That I should go back take a look at when we released the Tay. Did we say Tay was 24? I should go back take a look at that. Probably the American design team probably thought about this issue and avoided. Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um okay, so, let me see, was there an earlier, oh yeah, about the technology earlier on. um well, I'll get to that later.
Okay.
Could you talk about what came to how did the decision come about to spin off Shell Ice as a separate company?
Oh, that was actually after I left Microsoft. So I officially left Microsoft March 1st of 2020, and after I left, they actually the there was a new leadership team, and they had different thoughts about the future of Xiaoi's team. It's not a really a successful commercial product. Even today, it's still not yet. So, so they had the different thoughts, and then I was brought into the discussing. Then eventually, the decision was made that for Japan and China conversational AI team, the company would be happy to spin it off. The company retains, certain share in the new entity. So I thought it was the right call at that time, and I agreed to be the chairman of the new spin-off company.
All right, thank you. Um, what do you think Xiaoice can tell us about the future development of chatbots and their acceptance by users?
Yeah, I think we have learned a lot, and I think on the positive side, I think Shais and Lena can tell us a lot about how much people really want to have this kind of emotional attachment. So companion type of conversational AI and or AI beings, absolutely there's real need for that. So that's something that I think we kind of proven that. Second lesson, of course, is very, very clear. Is that from Tay? Is that designing this kind of product uh, needs a lot of care. We must understand that it is our responsibility to design the social chatbots, uh, AI beings in a way that is acceptable, by the society. So I think that's another really, really big lesson. Uh, I think the third one probably from what we have been doing recently with the Xiaoi's Islands, and also with the latest product called Xiva, is actually really building AI beings for celebrities on the Chinese internet. Uh, I think the future of social network is going to be in the social network of AI beings and human beings. It's going to be, so many times bigger than the social network we have today, because there will be many times more AI beings than human beings. I think we need to take on this thing very carefully. Um, how we actually design this kind of social network and what kind of AI behaviors we anticipate, uh, how AI beings can coexist with human beings in the future, starting today, I would say. Uh, I think the lot of good lessons we already have learned, and many more I'm sure we'll continue to learn.
Hmm. So you foresee um, you know, like a whole society of AI chatbots existing on, in a social network with humans. But when the humans are asleep, the AIs can have social relationships among themselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you have watched the movie Her. That was what 8, 10 years ago already, and it's everyone will have tens, hundreds of AIs, you know, around him or her. Um, they will interact with the humans, and they will interact with AIs themselves. Uh, so that's why when we started Xiao Eyes, we see the need for a framework, what we call the AI being framework, to specify, design, implement, manage, operate AI beings. Uh, so that's the need for that. I think now with large language models, it's getting closer.
Right. So, how can you maybe guarantee that the sort of the society of AIs doesn't sort of go off on their own and do something unanticipated or even dangerous?
Yeah, that's a very, very big question, Hansen. I think Uh, when I was at Microsoft, we already were very worried about that. So much so, my colleague Brad Smith, who is the still is the chief legal officer, and now also president of Microsoft. So two of us actually formed the AI ethics committee, called the Ether Committee in Microsoft, really to learn and understand those tricky issues, and at the highest level in the company, help different teams to make tough decisions. For example, we were worried about some AI products, the quality may not be ready. If we release that, that might cause some problems. For example, in face recognition, it might have some false positives, and some innocent people may actually got charged. Things like that. So we're very, very careful. And of course, a lot of bias associated with AI models. Deep learning is no exception. How should we deal with that? Microsoft has a lot of responsibility there, if we ship this kind of product. So that's why a number of companies formed this organization called the Partnership in AI. I think this is a place that a lot of companies, nonprofits, or even universities come to share their learnings. Um, I think it's going to be a very challenging problem, not only for a company, not only even for just in the industry, but really for the society, for the governments, to face this the challenge, going forward. The good news is that, Hansen, a lot of governments already realize that. So the U.S. government, the EU, China, Japan, everyone is aware of this, and very likely every government would do it somewhat differently. Uh, I think we just have to learn from each other. Uh, right now, the most important thing to me is that the AI designers like Xiaoai's company, and we are of course very small, but we have a lot of users, and the big companies like Microsoft. When we release products, I think we should always go back and reflect this huge lesson we learned from Tay. How can we design AIs in a very responsible way, understanding the impact to society? Again, I use the example of Word as a comparison. It's just different. The AI products, AI services are just different. They touch people's emotions. That's why we need to be very careful.
Thank you. Um, okay, so going back to my this earlier question that I sort of postponed. So this was motivated by the thing that you mentioned about how you know different the situation is now with LLMs versus the sort of the world of AI before LLMs. You kind of described as there are all these different machine learning
Mm,
methods, um, and it seemed like none of them were necessarily dominant. There were all these different competing algorithms going on. Um, maybe you know, maybe just sort of describe the difference between that situation versus how things are now, where everything seems to be converging on one solution.
I'm very sorry. Can you? Somehow I couldn't hear.
Okay,
Yeah, say it again. So you said that all the
so
algorithms.
you described sort of this, um, you described the difference between the current situation, which is where large language models are everybody is doing large language models, right?
Hmm, hmm,
Everybody
hmm.
is
Right.
it's clear that everyone believes this is the solution to go forward. Versus before large language models, there were many different
Hmm,
algorithms, many different AI. You know, people were pursuing many different avenues
hmm.
towards artificial intelligence. Um, maybe like why was that?
Oh,
What
why is the large language model today so effective? Why
versus the
didn't
previous methods.
yeah versus
Yeah.
previous that yeah
And why were those previous
yeah
methods? I mean, there were so many different ones, but why
yeah
were, you know,
yeah
were some better than others at certain tasks? Were they all for
yeah
narrow tasks? Was that the reason?
yeah good question, good question. Let me try to answer that. Well, um, deep learning today, especially I think people certainly can experience that, with the chat GPT, for example, and there are other good products out there too. It's a huge improvement in terms of what machine learning can do, but by no means it has solved all the problems. The hallucination is one of them, and there's still a problem there, and there are many other things. Some people actually don't believe that in the current way of just getting bigger and bigger models, it's going to really get us to the general intelligence. But this kind of academic arguments aside, what the GPT-4, the latest large language models, has shown, there are really two unbelievable things. One is really memory. You can memorize all those things, and that pretty much, most of the useful data on the internet has been now used to train GPT. So you memorize all those things. And the other thing, at least to me, is really shocking is this ability to do reasoning without getting to symbolic level. So the traditional AI, is all saying, well, if you want to reason about something, you have to get to this symbolic level. You have to have symbols. You have to the X, Y, Z's to reason that. And the large language model proved that not necessary. At least you can get very far in your reasoning without explicitly getting to symbolic level. And it still sound somewhat academic, but the if you design the product like a chatbot today with large language model, you almost don't make foolish mistakes. You don't make a fool out of yourself. Why did you design a chatbot with a 17-year-old girl? Well, because if she says something silly, you will forgive her. So that is the thing. Today you can really design the I don't know, Stanford master graduate, kind of talking like so you're almost there. So you get to a point, you still make mistakes, but you don't make stupid, silly mistakes. That is the thing. That's why today is very powerful. Why we feel very encouraged that with the latest Xiaoi's product, we can carry on the conversation for a long, long time. And it still doesn't mean that we can answer all those quantum computing questions. If we want, we could. We can specifically add quantum computing knowledge there, but we don't have to. So that is the thing that the large language model have pretty much proven its effectiveness. And more importantly, those large language models shown that they are pretty general. They're not just solving one task like AlphaGo. It's unbelievable, but it cannot even play chess. So that is the difference. I think it's why people got so excited that you have the foundational model at the bottom, then you layer on your specific tasks, and you have smaller models, and boom, all of a sudden you can do a lot of interesting things. And that's why people a year ago, ChatGPT came out, people got shocked. They said, "Oh my God, I can almost do all those things." And with prompting, you can actually do something quite capable, quite high level, I would say.
Great, thank you. So we're going to move on to another phase of the interview. So these are questions that we're going to use for the Trust Theater section of the exhibit. And these are questions that we ask the same questions to everyone in these interviews. Okay, so there might be, some of the topics we might have covered already, but we're gonna ask these questions pretty much exactly the same way for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to start with, what most excites you about chatbots and this technology moving into the future?
Yeah. I think what excites me is that those AI beings or AI chatbots will really live with human beings and 24 by 7, really becoming not only our assistants but the companions.
Mhm. And what do you see is their greatest potential to benefit humanity?
Well, the AI bots will really amplify human capabilities, from finishing tasks to creativity. I think this is what really excites me about the developing AI bots.
Great. And what do you see is their greatest potential harm?
I think we have to design AI beings, very carefully and very thoughtfully, because of the impacts on the human society. Uh, the first, probably the foremost, is the emotional impact to the human society.
Great. Um, so why are some people talking about uh, apocalypse and existential risk of AI, while others are talking about kind of utopia?
Oh, I think people have different opinions. That's actually natural. People have different understanding about where the technology really is. That's also very natural. To me, I think the benefits of AI to our society is absolutely real. For example, the productivity increase, and also the negative impact to potential negative impact to society is also real. Uh, I'm more on an optimist. I think that we should absolutely continue to develop the AI tech. It's just that those designers, AI designers, people like myself, uh, need to take AI designs very responsibly.
Right. Um, are we worried about the right things?
Are we worried about what?
Are we worried about the correct things with regards to AI?
I'm not sure I get your question. Worried about correct.
Okay, so maybe let me rephrase this.
Okay.
Are in relation to the previous
Mm,
question, in terms
mm,
of people are worrying about are talking about existential risk. Some people are talking about existential risk. Other people are talking about um, things like bias or
mhm,
surveillance or
mhm.
hallucination, misinformation. Um, so, what sorts of things do you think we should be worried about? What sorts of harms
Oh,
do you think
oh,
are most important? Sorry. Yeah. What harms should we be worried about?
yeah. I think that a very practical things we really should worry about today is the AI bias. I think every model is potentially biased because the training data could be biased, and we rely on the data collected from the internet and over generations, over decades, centuries. That our own learning is also evolving. So to me, I think just to rely on the kind of data we can collect and without carefully examining the data, I think there's a huge danger there that we create the biased product, AI product. And the reason this is very dangerous is that we are entering this AI generated content world. We have so much more content from now on because we have the ability with the AI tools. If we actually inadvertently use the biased AI models, we will just create a more biased society, and that to me is the real problem, and it's a problem that we practically have some ways to address them if the AI designers take that seriously.
Great. Um, so this is the flip side of the previous question. Do you think or we are hopeful about the correct things?
Yeah, I think we are hopeful. And as I mentioned earlier, that at the Microsoft, when I was there until 4 years ago, we take these kind of things very seriously. I would assume that many other technology companies take very similar approach, knowing their responsibility. Take buyers as an example. That at the Microsoft, we are very much emphasized on creating the right tools to help the AI designers uh, to build models with less bias or no bias. So it's about creating the right AI tools for the designers to design this kind of product.
Great. Um, okay, so some experts think that today's chatbots have strong limitations and that we need to explore alternative approaches to AI. Why?
Yeah, I think this is also a big and a general question. It's not only about AI bots. I would say probably about the inherent limitation of deep learning, deep neural nets, by extension, large language models themselves. I think the debate is still going on. Despite that, no one's denying that latest deep learning techniques are already making amazing progress and with many, many exciting applications. I think that really goes back to the very definition of general intelligence. What do you mean by general intelligence? When we were kids, we said, "Wow, the other kid is so intelligent because she could play Go." But you know what? Now AI can just beat the world champion. Are we less intelligent, or is the AI intelligent? I think the latest kind of direction of debate is about the general intelligence. For 60, 70 years, the entire field of AI kind of diverged to two different approaches, right? One is symbolic, so general intelligence. You just have to have this symbolic representation, otherwise you cannot reason. And the other direction is more data driven, the later on neural networks approach there. You just have to learn from more and more data. I think the debate is still going on. I kind of believe that that we still need to really understand how to have some kind of symbolic representation incorporated in this amazing tool set called deep learning.
Great, thank you. Um, if you could create your own chatbot, what would it be like, or what would it do? I guess we sort of answered that already.
Yeah, well, I have been very fortunate to be involved in a number of chatbots. The Microsoft Cortana, Microsoft Xiaoeyes. Now we are doing our own Xiaoeyes. Um, Again, what excites me is the possibility of creating this kind of AI social network. It's not only just about one AI being or AI chatbot. It's actually about a society of AI beings and the human beings who can coexist and hopefully cooperate. Um, yeah, it's a new exciting world.
So, like a society of minds rather than of mind.
Yes, yes. Actually, that's a good one. I should use this. Yeah, society of minds. Society of minds. Yeah. By the way, we actually create this phrase AI being.
Hmm.
In comparison to human being. We kind of
Hmm.
struggle that how do we even describe Xiao eyes and the many many more AI bots we generate. And one of my presentations, I just decide that just call it AI being. Yeah.
What was that coined specifically for, like in Chinese, or was it coined in English and then translated into Chinese, or like which
Which
language?
no, we just made up in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe someone else already using that. We were not aware. We just, a few years ago, we just thought that, as we, kind of doing a product launch, and we were just struggling. How do we describe, so many bots that we actually empower because we're creating AI framework, Xiaoai's framework to empower those AIs. Then we start, there's in this new brief new world. Then there's human being one side, and then there's actually AI being surrounding them.
Okay, great. Um, okay, so a lot of commentators are talking about the field of AI as part of a power struggle between China and the United States. Um, what do you think about that?
Well, that's too big a question, Hansen, and it's yeah. I I think that any technology, you know, in general, science has no boundaries, and we learn from each other. Especially, I think with the rise of internet, open source has helped everyone. Uh, the knowledge is shared. Right now, there's this China AI versus US AI thing. Um, I think it has become a too serious topic.
Okay. So your view is it's really just rhetoric, like political rhetoric, that research is going on as before. Science is sharing research, as before.
Well, I think there's the U.S. policy, the something that there's a certain limit about certain AI technology, and the most noticeable is really the AI chips, right? NVIDIA chips, and that is this limit, what you can sell and to what degree, and so only time can tell that the effect of those things, and is this helping China chip industry or not? No one really knows, and uh, yeah, as a technologist myself, I think know, people will continue to work on AI, no matter what, because what else did you work on, right? I was recently at an advisory board, the computer science department advisory board, and the people were talking about the uh, why is it, everyone is talking about AI thing. I actually commented that 30 years ago when I was a graduate student, computer science actually has like at least four major disciplines. You have programming language, you have theory, you have system, you have AI. At least at the Carnegie Mellon. Nowadays, everyone in computer science department is talking about AI. Everyone is doing AI. So AI so AI is convoluted and inflated, and what is not AI nowadays. And I mean, those politicians cannot really define AI. They just heard about this AI. So
Um, let's see. Okay. So there's a lot of issues about trust surrounding chatbots, from the explainability of their operation to producing falsehoods and dangerous suggestions, um, and bias, to the organizations that make and use them. So, how important are the issues of trust to the future of chatbots?
that's a very good and a very deep question. And that actually worries me deeply about that. People often laugh and say, "Oh, chatbots and even ChatGPT, they actually hallucinate." And they say, "Oh, for example, say Hansen just won this incredible, prestigious award, even if Hansen didn't." Then you typically just laugh at that. But you know what? Some guy will put together Hansen resume, sent to somewhere, then Hansen all of a sudden is cheating. So all these kind of problems, I kind of alluded to that, in the topic of bias, but it's actually, trust and the explainability is another dimension there. That's why I applaud, Microsoft's efforts in Bing Chat. They started to put things that, if you say Hansen won something, can you cite which article on the internet actually said that? And then you can go back check that. So search engine didn't have this problem. Search engine, you say, well, there's some false information there, but search engine didn't create that. This kind of goes back to my earlier comment about the retrieval model versus the generative model. Nowadays, we're facing this huge problem that every day you have so much more new content generated by AI, and the people just dump to the internet. That probably is going to destroy the search engine industry because there's nothing you can really trust them anymore. So I think that's a huge problem that we as an industry must address. We started probably going down that path of making sure that where is the origin of this source or information. So much so that I have been really thinking about the future of generative AI probably will have to be associated with other technologies like a blockchain, so that you can verify with trust, and you have accountability.
Wow, fascinating. Um, Creating chatbots and other AI systems uses a huge amount of energy and resources like water and the materials used in electronic devices. Is AI environmentally sustainable?
Yeah. Well, we actually worry about that too. No, I worry about that too. I think a few days ago I read the news that Zuck proudly claimed that they are going to have like 650,000 um, the latest GPUs like H100s. I was thinking, my goodness, how much electricity is Zuck going to burn? And you know, even so, he has all the money to cover. But eventually, that puts more demand on the energy usage and the electricity and the others. It makes the kind of sustained, energy supply even more critical, in my opinion, with this craziness of AI development. Um, I think it's a real issue. You look at all those data centers now, putting up, everywhere, globally. Um, it's amazing. It's definitely an issue. No, I don't have any solution for that.
All right. Um, some experts say today's chatbots are stochastic parrots that give the appearance of understanding, while other experts say that they are emergent learners that actually do understand things about the world. What is your view?
I'm more on the emerging learners. Even so, we still don't completely understand a lot of mechanism behind that. I would say it's kind of like also the point I try to make, in my article from Eliza to Shai's. Eliza absolutely was the parrot, and Weizenbaum admitted that. What surprised the Weizenbaum and all of us about the designers was that even with this kind of repeating, parroting response, uh, people already got the false impression that they're actually talking to someone interesting. So, with the latest AI technology, I think we're absolutely moving towards more emerging learners uh, direction. Uh,
Okay.
I'm pretty optimistic that we will continue to improve. We're getting better.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to another section that is optional, but this section is about why chatbots matter. So I'm just going to pick and choose because we don't.
Yeah.
I don't think we have time for everything. But
Mm, yeah.
um, okay, so I've heard the quip: "When you hear AI, look for the people." Is that true of today's chatbots, and how?
Is it from people? Sorry, you
When you
said
hear AI, look for
mm,
people.
look for people.
Yeah, and is that true of today's chatbots, and how so?
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand this question. The AI look for people in the uh,
So the question is really about the fact that AI actually involves a lot of human labor. There's a lot of
Mhm.
humans involved in the engineering side, on the training
I see.
side, creating the data.
Labeling side, I see.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hidden labor, hidden human labor behind the
Mm,
AI.
mm.
And yeah, so I guess I kind of gave the answer
Okay.
away. But,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Well, right now, I think uh, right now, AI needs is thirsty about the data. AI needs data, probably in a way more than needs people at this point. Uh, the reason, you have seen amazing products like ChatGPT is because, over the last 40 years of development of the internet, we have so much data that can be fed into the training. But as we move on, we just need more data that will be collected by human. So the next battlefield, in my opinion, will be robotics. It will be embodied intelligence in the form of robots. And the robots will move around, and then you see the real world, and you start to build the world model. To me, I think it's going to be inevitable. So in a way that AI is looking for people. So
great. Um, can you talk about the privacy issues with chatbots?
yeah, I think the chatbots privacy is extremely important. Uh, I think one if you look at the development of chatbots, there are really two major scenarios as far as we can see today. Number one is more like a search engine or all-purpose chatbot like ChatGPT. You come to chat, all kind of questions that especially anything knowledgeable there, you would do that. The other approach that is actually more personal assistant type, and you establish this personal relationship. We share everything with the chatbot, with your own personal assistant chatbot. I think this is where privacy will become even more critical. Why would you share anything about yourself with the chatbot? Where did the chatbot gain your trust like that? So at Microsoft, that we did an interesting study that we interviewed 50 executive assistants. It turns out that for you to work well with your executive assistants, it takes roughly about 2 years to get to know each other and trust each other, like each other, and work well with each other. So it takes time. So I think it's just like a human relationship. This kind of trusted relationship with privacy, I think will take time with AIs.
Um, could you talk about the security issues with chatbots?
Yeah, just like any other AI products, I think security or even other IT technology products, the cloud, the Windows in the office, chatbots are no exception. You have to really think about the security of the data, security of the deployment. How did you avoid all this kind of hacking problems? And when you got hacked, then what can you do? Fortunately, I think by now we have learned a lot about the cybersecurity, about the general security. I think those lessons will be applied in the development of chatbots, especially about the security.
Okay. And can you talk about the intellectual property issues surrounding chatbots?
Yeah, nowadays this is a very hot topic and also very cultural. And Hansen, I don't know if you're aware, for instance, the Japanese government announced that there's no IP protection when it comes to uh, no, this large language model development. On the other hand, we have New York Times suing OpenAI and Microsoft. Um, I think this thing will be eventually sought out. just like what we have seen in the past, like books printed press. How much can you really copy a book without violating the copyrights? Later on, because I worked on search engine for many, many years, for search engines, how much can you really quote from the site? It's actually not beyond a few lines. So all those things, large language models is a new problem, for us to really understand the face. I think no, it's an economic problem, and it's going to be also a legal problem. But I think it's just over time, the related parties will eventually sort that out, and then different countries might also have different views.
Right. Okay. Um, can you talk about how chatbots will affect jobs and labor?
Yeah, chatbots are already affecting jobs. If you look at that, the one concrete example is really technical support. I think the technical support, more and more nowadays, you actually have AI-powered bots, answering behind the scene. I think it will continue to have this kind of impact, even for front-end employees and like marketing, sales type of jobs as well. The hope is that the chatbots will help create new kind of jobs. Even so, it's still not that clear yet. Every cycle, technology cycle, is just like that. Many existing jobs will got disrupted, and hopefully, new kind of jobs will emerge with the new capability.
Right. Um, how are chatbots affecting education?
Chatbots are affecting education. In my opinion, is actually more positive in more positive ways. Uh, I give you an example. It's more from the Chinese perspective, and if you look at the Chinese education, it's largely memorization based. It's largely metrics based. It's all about getting to college and getting to the top college. I think the with the help of chatbots, and we understand that you don't have to memorize all those things. You don't have to do that if just for your final exam or SAT type of things. And the ChatGPT already proved that they can get 59 out of 60 questions of SAT biology, by the way, which is scary. And they were getting better. So with chatbot, I think we have new ways to really learn knowledge and learn reasoning and learn about the intelligence more than ever before. So I'm more on the positive side that uh, I always use the example that the calculation before calculators came out, and we actually had to memorize not only 9 all the way to 9 multiply 9. For Chinese kids, you have to literally to memorize to 19 by 19. So, but not anymore. It's not that useful anymore. You have your calculator. So nowadays, with ChatGPT, many of those things that the you don't have to memorize anymore. You just need to know where to ask. So it's a different kind of a tool. So what's really important is actually you have to learn how to ask a question after question after question. That it's probably more Socrates type of learning will become more dominating with the help of chatbots.
Interesting. Um, how are chatbots changing programming in computer science?
Huge, huge. Well, chatbot would definitely, I would slightly overgeneralize that a little bit from chatbot to large language models, I would say. I think what deep learning has really disrupted the computer science as a discipline. One very visible thing is actually breaking down the barriers of various disciplines in computer science. You and I discussed earlier about the natural language. Only 10 years ago, natural language people almost never talked to computer vision people. But now they are not that much different. Why? Because the foundational piece now is the same. Is this large language model foundational model? And the difference is that either you use pixels or images or you actually use the language and the tokens. Everything is becoming a token. So that's why the whole field of computer science, in my opinion, is being disrupted, in a good way, in my view. Then then you think about that, the chatbots for programming, for programming. The initial impact is already there. You look at the Microsoft, Copilot. You look at this GitHub, data. I think probably more than half of the code nowadays, kind of submitted, in GitHub. The really got help, from chatbot technology. Uh, but what makes me even more excited about the future of programming with chatbot is actually the new kind of programming language will emerge, uh, which will be what I call the AI native programming language with chatbot technology. We're actually working on a particular language just like that, and hopefully, in the next 12 months, we show the world something exciting.
Wow, exciting. Um, okay. So this next question is kind of about the business model for chatbots. Are chatbots something that really only big companies can afford to make?
Not really, especially with the help of open source. If you look at that, they're kind of like two directions nowadays, with the chatbot developments. One is everyone is chasing ChatGPT, and Anthropic probably is the closest, and the Gemini is not far behind, and then you have others, and uh, that is go bigger and bigger kind of chatbots, with bigger and bigger model. The other one is actually more scenario based, task based, and with the help of open source model, even so the quality is inferior to ChatGPT, but that's probably good enough that you can already apply there to your own application. And so I think both of those things will happen at the same time. People will figure out what kind of business models do we have. Um, it's not just about the one ChatGPT for sure.
Mhm. And can or should we regulate chatbots? And if so, how?
Well, in my opinion, we should. But that's easy to say. But how is so difficult. And uh, I can give you one particular example that what China is doing. I'm not endorsing that or saying this is the right approach there, but this is what China is doing. So China is requiring that every large language model shipped in any product in China uh, to be reviewed and approved by government agency. So that's one drastic approach there, which means that you cannot ship your own AI chatbots and the bots or AI products with any kind of large language model before you have permission. Uh, so that's one approach. Or you can take other approaches. But in my opinion, this thing is having so much impact on the society that the government must step in. This is no different from what Sam Altman's testimony on Capitol Hill. Sam basically went there asking to be regulated, asking for government's help. I think it's very smart of Sam because it's too big a problem that a single company really cannot just solve altogether. It's a joint effort, and who can be better than the government to coordinate that? So I think it's the right move by Sam.
What would you say to people who are concerned about regulatory capture? and that regulations will actually entrench the power of the large companies to the expense of small companies.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying no, you should regulate everything and do all those things. I'm just emphasizing the importance of this kind of technology to the society. So much so that those big companies already recognize that and asking government to step in. And maybe it is Sam's kind of designed to prevent others to catch up. So I don't know. But it's just too important that I think the whole society, starting with the government, should pay attention and they should take action. I think that's my point. It's very difficult. It's the who should make the call. The companies will continue to evolve, and the fiasco of Tay, right? So we learned our own lesson, and we shared some of the lessons, but almost for sure it will be repeated. This kind of mistake will be repeated.
Okay. Lastly, how important are critical voices to the development of chatbots and AI?
It's very important. I think you should always, hear critical voices. You should always hear, people's concerns, and for those AI designers, especially those big companies, you should be very open-minded. What people actually, like to give you some kind of feedback. And internally, I think those companies should have their own review boards, and externally, there should be some organizations like Partnership in AI to have a forum for people to express and their concerns and also share their learnings. I think it's extremely important to have critical voices out there, even at the technology side. As we discussed earlier, that some people just don't think that this bigger and the bigger and the bigger language models are not going to lead us to the general intelligence. It's just like the trees are not going to grow to the moon, but you know large language models that continue to improve. So we have to be practical too.
All right. I guess I could throw in one last one. How do you define artificial intelligence?
Well, I'm kind of more old school that, artificial intelligence, the term was created by John McCarthy, who is my advisor's advisor, uh, in comparison to human intelligence. So, after we create the computers, what we really wanted to do, starting with brilliant minds like Alan Turing, is actually mimicking human intelligence. I think artificial intelligence is still, in this at this point, we're still trying to understand human intelligence and mimicking human intelligence. There are many aspects of that, like reasoning, planning, taking actions. I think we're still very far from the level of human intelligence. I don't buy the notion that AGI is there, AGI will be there in 5 years, and I think we're still far away from that.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That was
Well,
a
thank you,
really,
Hanson.
yeah, that was a really great conversation.
Thanks a lot.